Hello and welcome, this is Rooflemonger, and in this edition of Let's Learn Soul Calibur 6, we're going to be talking about how to use training mode effectively. And kind of before anything, I really want to get this one out of the way, because it's a common thing with Namco games. So you see here, I do my sick little move, everything connected, that's awesome, right? Well, not really. So if we just go over here, it says action settings here, so stand normal. That's fine. We don't need to change that. But the part where it says continue action 1, we got to change that one. We got to change it to stand. And then we see have we quite a few more options to choose from here. And we're going to have it choose to guard all. So now we're going to do the same thing. Oh, and it turns out Nightmare gets to block that, right? So none of that, what we just did, was guaranteed. So that is the first thing you really need to check out in training mode before anything else, just to make sure you don't accidentally teach yourself setups and, whatever you're looking for that just happens to be not real. So much the same here. So after he takes any hit, he will guard, and he will guard the first available hits that he can. So if I go like this here and go like that, he's still going to guard. If I go like this and then try to hit him low, he's still going to guard here. No matter what, he's going to guard everything. So it'll show you what's real and what's not. Because sometimes, even though it looks like a natural combo, it is not real. So one more time, when we're in the dummy character settings, we just go to action 1. We'll just leave it as it is. It doesn't really matter what it is. And action 2 is stand guard all. So now that we have mentioned that, because I did want to get that out of the way early, because I feel it's really, really important. A lot of people probably don't know that unless you were told. Let's just have a look at what we got available here. So we have, this is first part here, as dummy settings here. We got all sorts of settings, which we'll go into a little bit here. Next screen here, we have standby settings. Standby simply means you are allowed to search for matches while you're in training mode. So you can set, whatever character you want, your connection, all that kind of stuff, and you can just enter matchmaking from here. Next up, we have our gauge settings, and this is quite simple here. So say it has one player soul gauge setting, it says always max. How about we set it 0%, right? And now instead of 2 bars, we have 0 bars. So much the same here. Say we want to go to one piece soul charge settings. We'll set it to always max. So now under soul charge, and hey, we're just here forever. So there's no need to reset to do soul charge over and over again or whatever. We are just now in soul charge permanently, right? So you want to do all your soul charge stuff here. You can freely do it without ever having to re-enter the mode. And also guard crush settings here. You can set to never be guard crushed. You can set just before guard crush. So let's set the bot say to just before guard crush. So you can see how his setting is about to freak out here and turn red. And then we can just test them out and guard crush, so we don't have to manually burn that bar. Now, moving onwards from gauge settings here, we have kind of a generalized menu here. So, your move list, that's really key. Obviously, combat lessons, we went over this in the tips video. Whatever your character is, you should probably read what they have to tell you here, because it's some good stuff, and literally everything else in the game is mentioned here. So check that out, please, please, please. Instant replay, position reset settings, which we'll talk about in a moment here. System settings, so you can set a frame delay here to make it more like online play. Display settings, this is just, hey, do you want to turn everything off here? Perhaps you want to take, a nice little screenshot of this or something like that, right? Well, then you can get all those gauges out of the way. That's really all that's for. So now let's go back to the action settings. So we already showed you here at the start, stand normal, stand guard, all that's all well and good. First off to mention here, you actually are allowed to save multiple slots. So you see here, so we can have it set to whatever on number 3, number 2. We just switch on the fly so we don't have to manually reset it every single time. But now let's try something different here. So we'll keep stand guard all just in case here. And then what we're going to do here is set to say attack. And there's some couple keyed in basic attacks here. There's actually more as you can play a recording, but we'll show that in a little bit. And so say we'll just hit A and A together. So now the dummy's just going to keep doing this over and over. And then he's going to guard right away afterwards. So what we're going to do here is, hey, let's test out this specific move here. From what range can I hit him from? Obviously that's not going to work, right? So what pokes are going to be able to hit this guy? These are the kind of things I can test. And then he'll guard again right away afterwards. So when you are testing these kind of things, that's kind of how you get to do some basic moves here. So say we don't want to do that, we're going to do BB instead, right? So BB, can I sidestep in the middle of this? Nope, sure can't, right? That's the kind of thing you can test. Can I just guard impact in between it? Yep, we can. We just learned that. Having the enemy set to do basic attacks is a good way to figure out how the enemy moveset works. So now we have that said. Now let's actually talk about that recording here. So it says here, play recording 1, 2, or 3. Now, how do we do that? So if we want to set up a recording, what we have to do now is actually go to the switch modes here, and we switch over. We actually got a dummy here. We can do computer. We don't need that right now. And we can also go to controller. Controller just means, hey, player 2 can pick up a controller and go from there. But what we want here is this one right here, the command record. So we can see here, we got a couple of recording slots as was shown before. And what we want here is to go here, record to slot. So now you show, hey, it's recording. And it says when you're finished recording, press your touchpad. And this is assuming PS4 controls, right? But you press your touchpad, bingo, bango, bongo, we're done. Now it says here, you can hit touchpad and R1 to record again, or touchpad and R2 to play. So we hit play, then he's just going to start doing all the moving around we did earlier. So obviously, just moving around, that's not very helpful, right? But so what we want to do then is, okay, we can then, let's record something a little more useful here. So we're going to record this. And then we're finished our recording. So now when we play here, Nightmare is going to do this move right here. Now, let's just use that as an example. So, we want to use that as our example move because this is a move that's actually worth practicing against. Because, so, say you block it. Okay, whatever. Sure, whatever. All well and good, you blocked it, right? Can you sidestep it? No, because it tracks. But this is a move, and it's a pretty decent Nightmare move, so this is why it's an example here. The second hit, you can totally duck. And not only can you totally duck it, you can actually punish him for attempting it, right? So this is the kind of thing that we want to test out. Now, going back here, it says here, record playback format. We can actually loop it, right? So we don't have to having to keep hitting the button. Like, he'll just keep doing it forever as long as we have it on this setting. So you can save a bunch of various recordings here. And, just go from there. And we also get hit by the dummy. And this is what I'm talking about here. So now when we go all the way back to our training settings, so it says here, play recording 1. That's what it's talking about here. So recording, we have 1, 2, 3. So if you have, say, multiple recordings set, this is where you can switch it up. Now, another quick note here about the action settings before we move onwards here is obviously you can use it for so much more. So say you want to test getting guard impacted, right? If you put guard impacted in the first slot, the enemy will automatically guard impact your first move. So whatever you do, you're going to get guard impacted, and you can just test out what you want, right? And once again here, say if you want to use recording, you want to use base attack, so he can guard impact you and then attack you himself, right? And then we can kind of learn stuff from there. Also, besides that, you can also do all sorts of things like, hey, you want to practice against a down enemy here. Boom, he just fell over for you, right? And besides that, reverse ledge, you want to test out reverse ledge stuff here. Maybe practicing, sidestepping reverse ledges and, getting punishes or something. Like, these are all things that you can do. So, hey, spam your reversal edge. That's a nice little combo to stop here, right? So you have so many options just from this here, and hey, select move, right? You can literally pick anything from the move list you want that you want to test out. So there is a lot of options here, so please, please, please make use of it. Now, another thing in the note here is to mess around with those counter hit settings. So, as you remember at the start of the video, we did this and we found out, hey, the enemy can just straight up block it, right? Thanks to being able to use our action settings. So if we turn on counter hit, what happens is, well, it turns out, hey, and counter hit actually is a normal combo. They don't get the block. So this is the kind of thing you get to learn, because there's a lot of things going on with moves that aren't just necessarily, available just by looking at it, like for knowledge-wise. Like, here's a good example here. So now that we have counter hit on, we're going to do forward B and hold A. Alright, that's all well and good. We gave him a nice little smack here, but now let's try this. We're going to do forward B, hold A, and miss. So what happened there is that actually knocked him down. So if we actually connected, well, then he gets a nice little spin cycle here, but nothing much here. But if we actually miss the first hit and do that, then he'll fall over, and then if he falls over, then hey, it's combo time, right? So this is something we can test out. A lot of moves have weird little properties like this, and I'm very sorry to tell you. You can go into your move list all you want. That some things like that are not going to be told to you. It sucks, but them's the breaks, right? But yeah, just mess around. Just certain things become combos that normally aren't combos in Counterhit. Sometimes moves have weird properties on Counterhit. Maybe like they might launch higher if they're a launcher, or they might cause a weird little stun that you can get more hits from. Sometimes the counter hit comes from not the first move in the string, as we saw, but the second hit of the string, right? So these are the kind of things you need to test out, and you can use your counter hit settings to check out exactly that. Now, this is a quick one because I did mention this in the other tip video, but please, please, please turn on the air control setting here. Say you do whatever launcher, and here's your sick little combo, right? Well, then if you actually turn on those air control settings, then turns out your neat little combo, it might be just as dead of the dodo because it doesn't actually work against someone doing air control, right? So for the most part, as you see here, there's a lot of directions you can air control, and it's unfortunate, but sometimes, depending on like the angle, say there's a air combo you do that works when they air control right, but it don't work when they air control forward, right? It can work when they air control back and right, but it doesn't work when they air control back and left or something like that, right? You gotta mess around a little bit just to make sure your combos are real. Generally speaking, back and right and back and left are gonna move away the furthest, while left and right have the more extremes of, trying to circle around. So those are the ones you generally want to test on. But yeah, just keep it in mind here, because I've already, and there's no fault of the player if you don't know, right? But I've already seen a lot of people's combos, like, here's this sick combo, and it just ain't real, right? Because people can easily air control out of by holding any of the directions. So please use this setting to make sure your combos are real. Now, the next thing I want to mention here is the ukemi settings. Now, ukemi is a bit of a fancy word, but basically what it means is kind of like a tech roll. They can quickly get up in any of the directions here. So, say, let's just use an example here. There's no tech roll. The enemy is currently set to no ukemi settings, so we're just going to knock them down, give them a little bit of a poke. So, the enemy, he's still blocking, right? Because he's still set to block everything after getting hit, but let's pretend he did, right? But now let's just set him to ukemi, say to the right. So same setup here. And our poke just completely whiffed. So this is kind of the thing here. So an ukemi is just basically you hold one of the directions, and you can literally mash guard while you're holding the direction to get up in the direction you want while you're falling down, just so you know. And then you can kind of get out of the way of stuff. Now, if you are hit while doing it straight up, just so you know, you will take extra damage. It is a thing. And there are certain attacks that you could guard if you just held guard and didn't move, that you would not be able to guard if you rolled in any particular direction. But it's just a defensive measure that can get out of a lot of linear stuff, and you really got to keep it in mind, because it's very strong if you use it correctly here, because right there you don't easily get up in place, right? Don't gotta roll around, don't do nothing. You're back on your feet as fast as possible, back in action quick as possible, right? And of course, the game being what it is, there are times you want to stay on the ground, right? There are times we call these things tech traps, right? People are literally waiting for you to do this so they can hit you with something that if you just laid down on the ground, it wouldn't hurt you at all. But it's just a defensive layer. It's kind of a guessing game, and obviously, as a defender, it sucks to be knocked down, right? But this gives you some measure of control over your own destiny, and just keep it in mind. And make sure you test your setups against this kind of stuff here, because if you have a very linear setup on knockdown, maybe a left-right ukemi will totally destroy what you were working for, because it turns out it doesn't work. Maybe you're doing something that's kind of short range. Maybe then a back ukemi where they kind of roll backwards here and to get some space. Maybe it totally avoids your setup, right? These are the kind of things you need to test out. The final thing I want to mention here is just simply the positioning stuff. So over here it says position reset settings. So what this is, center, foreground, side settings. This is basically what happens, when you reset your position and go back to start, right? Which is L1 and R1 together if you're not aware. So now let's go here, side settings, 2-piece side. Hey, now I'm player 2, right? So say you're like me, right? You have trouble doing stuff on player 2 side. Like, I've never been great at summon suffering on the player 2 side, for example. I always struggled with it. So, I really struggled with it, as you can see here. There we go. So this is the kind of thing you can do, right? So maybe you're awesome at something on player 2 side, but you're not awesome at it player 1 side. Then, much the same here. Then, you can test it out. And there you go. I'm a lot better at summon suffering on player 1 side, just so you know. But yeah, these are the kind of things you want to test out here. Player 1, player 2. All well and good. Foreground, background, right, left. This is kind of stuff here that will matter more when we get to the big one here, which is the ring side, wall side. So it's basically, what it says. Ring side will put you right over here, right by the ring, right? You can test out all your sick ring out setups from here and knock them out, right? And now much the same here. If we hit start again, we gotta wait for load. Hit start again. Wall side, put them right against the wall. And obviously, if there's a stage with like no ring out, no wall, then it ain't gonna happen, right? But that's where we can mess with that kind of stuff here. And once again, say you want to test yourself against the wall, then what we're gonna do is change our direction settings. So see, we're at foreground now, so we're gonna change it to background, and now my back is against the wall. So maybe you have a setup to escape a corner or something you want to test, that'd be how you do it. And also much the same here. So we go left, right. You kind of can just change your relative positions to the wall or to the ring out position. So it is ring outs and wall stuff is very, very important in this game. And these are the kind of things you got to test out. So yeah, that's training mode in a nutshell. Hope I wasn't a little too verbose. Hope I didn't go on a little long-winded. Training mode is really important if you want to get good at fighting games. It doesn't matter what fighting game it is. Honestly, if you want to get good at fighting games, you're going to spend a lot of time in training mode. So that's why, I want to break it down for you so you can learn how to use it correctly to get better. I know it's fun just to go in there, match against your friends. I know it's fun to go make your cool creations, especially like this sick retro wave nightmare. Look how good that is. I'm so proud of how he turned out. But, in the end, you still got to learn how to play the game. You got to learn how to get good at the game. And this mode's the mode you do it in. So hopefully this helped you out. This will help you maximize your training time. And thank you very much for watching. I hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Soul Calibur.